Hey everybody, Tekking here. Before we get into the video, I have a very special announcement. I will be doing my annual charity live stream for St. Jude Children's Hospital this Saturday, December 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to throw up all the text on the screen right now, so it'll be very, very impressive. Check this out. December 17th, 2022, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Epic. Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to announce that because it's going to be a good one this year. I think we're going to raise a lot of money for St. Jude's, have a lot of people helping me out with this one, so look forward to that this Saturday. Okay, and with that all being said, on to the video! This is where we cut. On to the video! Am I supposed to just go right into the video? Okay, I can do that. I mean, I don't see why this is interesting for the viewers, but all right, fine. We'll just cut right into the video then. All right. Hello there, everyone, and welcome to this show where we talk about devil fruits. You know, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening in the current storyline of One Piece right now with Vegapunk and everything, but I wanted to go back to a simpler time. All right, I just wanted to have a generic devil fruit discussion video, you know? So I thought, you know what, let's go back to the East Blue, all right? Let's talk about devil fruits, like not the new devil fruits or whatever, like information we're finding out. Let's just talk about, you know, a devil fruit that's been in the story for a long time. Problem is, I've already talked about most of those. However, I was looking at the East, and when it comes to the East, you don't really have a lot of options because there weren't that many devil fruits revealed at that point in the story. Which is, I think, a good move on Oda's part, where he didn't really start getting into devil fruit craziness until the Grand Line. And that falls in line with the idea that in the Four Blues, most of the time, devil fruits are considered mythical. You know, like, remember when Captain Morgan, you know, was talking about devil fruits after Luffy, he found out that Luffy had one. Morgan was basically just like, you know, oh, yes, the devil fruits. Legend has it that the sea takes away their ability to swim. You know, and it's like a lot of people, like general civilians in the East and the South, Northwest Blues, they might look at devil fruits as just that, just mythical, like they don't actually exist or something like that. So in that case, in the East Blue, we only had Luffy and then Buggy and then nobody for a while. I mean, for a good stretch of story arcs there, you know, Syrup Village, Baratier, Arlong Park, no characters had devil fruit powers. Not until we reached Logtown, where we got Alvida's Slip fruit as well as Smoker's Moku-Moku no Mi. The Moku-Moku no Mi. Moku-Moku. Moki-Moki? No, that's a Yu-Gi-Oh card, right. What does Moki-Moki even mean? I actually looked it up to try to find out. I actually still don't know what Moki-Moki actually means in Yu-Gi-Oh, but that's a discussion video for another day. Moku-Moku, as in the onomatopoeia for clouds billowing, or smoke, or steam billowing. It's not something that is specifically catered to smoke, but make no mistake, the ability that, you know, Captain Smoker utilizes is in fact smoke. All right? And yes, I said Captain Smoker because at this point in Logtown, he was a captain, right? He got promoted fairly quickly after Alabasta to Commodore, and then after the time skip, and where he's at right now is Vice Admiral. Also, I mean, looking back on the story now, you can easily see that Oda was setting up Smoker to be an admiral by the end of the story for one very simple reason. He is the only Marine, aside from the admirals, that has a Logia. Like, that we know of. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there might be some other Marine in other parts of the One Piece world we haven't met yet. But it's interesting that not only does he have a Logia, but he has a Logia at such a relative low rank of the Marines, okay? Which makes me think that Smoker's actually had his power for a long time now, okay? It wasn't a situation of the Marines finding a devil fruit and then giving it to Smoker, because you'd think that when it came to Logias, which were, like, really rare, they would hold off on those and give them to, like, really accomplished officers. Not to say that Smoker wasn't powerful, but they're not going to give a Logia fruit to anybody in the Marines if they have the choice to. They're going to give it to, like, Vice Admiral, if not Admiral class, okay, for how powerful they can become, okay? And so for that reason, the only Admiral that doesn't have a Logia right now is Fujitora. Everyone else does. We have Kizaru with the Pika Pika no Mi, the Light Fruit, Akainu with the Magu Magu no Mi, the Magma Fruit, Aokiji defected, but he has the Hia Hia no Mi, the Chili Chili Fruit, and then we have Fujitora with the Zushi Zushi, that's Paramecia, and then we have Aramaki, who has the Mori Mori no Mi, okay, the Forest Fruit, all right? So out of all of them, though, really powerful characters, but then we have Smoker. So I like to think it was revealed during a Vivre card that Smoker was not from the East originally. He grew up in the Grand Line. So it was probably a situation where when he was a kid or a teenager at some point before he joined the Marines properly, he found the Moku-Moku no Mi. Oda actually revealed what it looked like during an SBS. He ate it, and then he got his powers, and then he joined the Marines, okay? And I also have to say that him having a Logia when he joined probably really helped him go up the ranks. I mean, he's pretty powerful, like, physically in terms of combat and using that staff thing that everybody always mispronounces, so I'm not even going to try. So he's pretty adept with that thing, but also the fact he had a Logia, I mean, that had to help him along a little bit there, right? I wonder how he ate the Moku-Moku no Mi. You know how it's like a situation when you're like in middle school or high school and somebody offers you a cigarette? That happened to me, and I'm like, oh no, I don't smoke, mostly because I knew if I would have done that, my parents would have killed me. You know, I take that cigarette, I get home, my mom smells smoke on me even in the slightest. That's not going to end well, you know what I mean? But I like to think that maybe Smoker had a similar situation with that, except instead of cigarettes or cigars, because he does smoke a lot of cigars, it was a devil fruit. So I don't know, maybe Smoker was hanging out with his friends and they found a devil fruit and just like, hey, come here, Smoker, come on, eat it. It's just like, no, you know, you want to be cool, don't you? I was like, yeah. And he just takes it and eats the fruit, and then he gets smoke powers. Here's another thing, too. Legitimate question. Does eating the Moku-Moku no Mi and having smoke abilities now make him immune to, like, any of the ill effects of cigarettes or cigars? You also have to consider there's a lot of horrible crap that is added to cigarettes in our world, okay? Like, a lot of stuff is packed in there, like rat poison, arsenic, not to mention the nicotine, you know? So I'm gonna assume that when Smoker picks out his fine cigars, and they're not cigarettes, they're cigars, they're rolled with just, I don't know, I don't smoke, I guess just regular tobacco, right? I mean, there's just nothing in there, there's no additives, there's no poisons, there's nothing that's like, you know, really addictive or anything like that. They're just really finely rolled cigars, but even so, he doesn't have any ill effects from smoking it because, you know, he's made of smoke, so, you know, that makes that easy. So, something interesting about the smoke itself, I actually pulled that up here. So, when Smoker uses this ability, it's typically either white smoke, as in the name of, he's gotten the White Chaser. Chaser, I think, was also his 4 kids' name because they couldn't name a character Smoker, because, you know, you don't want kids to be watching the 4 Kids dub of One Piece and seeing Smoker and how cool he is and everything. He's got a badass bomber jacket, and he's got a staff, and he hits people, and he has a motorcycle called the Smog Hog. You know, it has another name in the Japanese, but in the 4 Kids dub, it was the Smog Hog. You know, that runs on his Devil Fruit abilities. You know, he's a pretty cool character, so you don't want people to start to think that, like, hey, this is a cool character, and his name is Smoker, so I'm gonna go start smoking. I just have to ask, anybody watching this that has been watching One Piece ever since, you know, like the early days, the 4 Kids days, and if you are currently a smoker, did you start smoking because of Smoker? Was, like, that actually the impetus? Like, yeah, I'll tell you what, I was in middle school when I watched that episode with Smoker, and, you know, just instantly, I'm just like, I snuck into my dad's room, I grabbed his Marlboros, and it's been that ever since, you know? Maybe they had a point, I don't know. They also edited out all of his cigars in the 4 Kids dub, although with Smoker, it's not really that difficult because, you know, he always has smoke coming out of his mouth anyway. So in that case, actually an example of 4 Kids censorship and editing that kind of worked out okay. And I think they also might have, I don't know if this was in the 4 Kids dub itself or if it was something they changed in one of the video games at the time. Because remember, also 4 Kids was doing the video games for the first few One Piece ones. So I think they might have changed his ability from smoke to steam just to really cover it. You know, just like, no, he's not related to smoking cigarettes at all. He doesn't smoke cigars. He's not made of smoke. He's made of steam. That's steam coming off of him. And it kind of works because the smoke that Smoker utilizes is not like thick black smoke, it's white smoke typically. And so I wanted to look at what the differences here are. So I found this nice little website here that hopefully explains it. White smoke can often mean material is off-gassing moisture and water vapor, meaning the fire is just starting to consume material. White smoke can indicate light and flashy fuels, such as grass or twigs. Okay? I believe this was something I heard at one point, that if you see, like, if you're, like, walking around outside and you see smoke in the distance, if it's white smoke, that means the fire is still burning or just beginning to burn. You should probably get out of there. And if it's like a thick black smoke, that means that the fuel is beginning to burn out and the fire is no longer like at its peak. It's kind of smoldering at that point. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just something that was added to the memory banks a while ago. May or not be accurate. I don't know. It actually goes on to say here, thick black smoke indicates heavy fuels that are not being fully consumed. At times, black smokes can be an indicator that a man-made material such as tires, vehicles, or a structure is burning. As a general rule, the darker the smoke, the more volatile the fire is. It also clarifies gray smoke can just mean fire that is slowing down and is running out of materials to burn, okay? Given the fact that smoker is made of smoke, I think this would also make sense why most of the smoke he generates is white smoke, or white steam, whatever you want to say it, because he literally is the beginning of the fire, okay? It actually does bring up questions, the same kind of questions that happen with Ace, because he has a similar ability, the Marimarinomi, that just creates fire. Can Ace just generate fire? Like, he is the fuel that creates the fire, and I guess as long as, well, more specifically, I guess it's his stamina, because every Devil Fruit user, it comes back to their stamina. As long as Ace has stamina, and he can fight, and he can stand, and he can stay conscious, he can generate flames. He is the raw material to make the flames. That's how they're created. Kind of the same thing with Smoker, and in fact, we even got to see a fight between Smoker and Ace, where their fire and their smoke clashed during Alabasta. And I believe it was Ace that even brought up that, like, hey, listen, man, our powers aren't really well matched for each other. You know, neither of us really have an advantage. If the fight goes on, it's just going to be long and drawn out. In Pokemon terms, you know, it's kind of like a fire type versus another fire type. You know, no real advantage, and rather they actually, I think, have half effectiveness against one another. I still think Ace would win, like, just if we get down to just a battle of attrition, just a battle of stamina, and whose is going to run out first. I would say Ace would definitely win against Smoker at that point in the story, but it still would have taken a while. It's certainly not the kind of fight that Ace could have resolved in, like, one attack, because you'd assume even if Ace were, like, without hockey involved, if Ace was going to use his he-can, like his fire fist right at Smoker, probably would not have taken him out, because he literally is smoke, okay? So they would have fought back and forth using their abilities probably for several days until one of them finally passed out, and that most likely would have been Smoker, okay? So his smoke is interesting, where he can also sort of make it, like, tangible, like a physical kind of attack. So he does this in a few different ways. One way is that he'll actually separate his arm kind of like at the elbow, and he'll turn that section into smoke, and then that's his white blow, where he'll attack, and then, like, it's like a rocket-powered fist. Smoker has a rocket-powered fist. He's pretty cool, all right? I know Smoker hasn't really done a lot of stuff recently in the story, and there's a lot of other characters and a lot of other Marines even that are a lot stronger than him, but let's not, like, forget here, Smoker is pretty cool. He has a rocket-powered fist, all right? So he fires that off and punches people with it, but he can also turn his arms completely into smoke and, like, literally wrap around an opponent and, like, physically grab them and hold them in place, like he did with Luffy during Logtown. Maybe that was an early display of armament hockey. I don't know, but it does make sense if it was, because typically speaking, you know, smoke can't, like, hold things. It's smoke, you know, but, you know, in that case, Smoker was able to do that. I also find it really funny that at the time when Smoker first appeared, you got to put yourself back in the mindset of reading One Piece weekly back then in, like, the late 90s, like right when the East Blue was winding down, okay? And I was only, like, 5 or 6 years old at that point when Smoker first showed up. But when Smoker did appear and he was dominating Luffy, like, there was nothing Luffy could do to him at that point. Luffy did not know anything about hockey. all he could do was just flail his arms angrily at Smoker trying to punch him. Smoker just turns into smoke. The attacks go right through him, and so Luffy had no way to best him at that point. They didn't really... Well, okay, Sea Prism was revealed at the same time because, you know, Smoker revealed that the staff he uses has a Sea Prism tip on the end of it. Not the whole thing made out of Sea Prism, because then he wouldn't be able to wield it, but just the tip, ladies and gentlemen. And then he was able to, like, smack Luffy around with that, okay? So I guess at the same time Smoker showed up, Oda did already introduce a way that you could fight back against him, but there wasn't really many. At that point, the 3 categories of Devil Fruits had yet to be revealed, keep in mind. Paramecia, Zone, Logia. We didn't know any of that. At that point in the story, the only Devil Fruits we had to go on were Luffy's Gamu Gamu no Mi, Bara Bara no Mi by Buggy, and the Slip Slip Fruit by Alvida, and then Smoker's Smoke Smoke Fruit, which coincidentally, all 4 of those Devil Fruits appeared in the Logtown arc, okay? So maybe that was also Oda setting us up to be like, hey, I know I didn't really showcase a lot of these Devil Fruits here in the East Blue, but wait until we get into the Grand Line. There's going to be a lot of these, so maybe Oda was just like, okay, Luffy fought against, like, you know, Kuro and Krieg and Morgan and Alvida, you know, before she had a Devil Fruit and everything like that, but once we get into the Grand Line, it's a whole other story. Also, little fun fact just off to the side, I believe the only Devil Fruit that actually originated from the East out of those 4 was Alvida's Slip Slip Fruit, because Buggy had his Devil Fruit in the Grand Line, Smoker's from the Grand Line originally. I don't think he, you know, he lived in Logtown for a long time and ate his fruit there. I think that happened a long time ago before he even joined the Marines. And Luffy's Gamu Gamu no Mi also originated out of the East. I believe so. I mean, it might have come from the East, but that's actually kind of, like, debatable right now. But the only one we know for sure that actually originated in the East was Alvida's, because she never left the East until she joined Buggy's crew, okay? So that's interesting. So yeah, Smoker was a powerhouse, though. It's just, like, at the time, like, had I been reviewing One Piece during this arc when I was, like, 6 years old, you know, it's just like, hello, everyone. Look, I have to bust out my parents' giant VHS video camera. This is how we filmed YouTube videos in the late 90s, ladies and gentlemen. You know, just like, wow, Luffy is trying to fight against Smoker. He's invincible. This Smoker guy is going to be the greatest villain in all of One Piece. This is the final enemy for Luffy right here. They're setting it up in Logtown. There's just nothing Luffy can do to him, you know? Oh, my goodness. So something else that Smoker has apparently the capability to do, he's just never done, is that, you know, it's the ability of smoke. Smoke tends to be an irritant, you know, if you get it in your eyes, if you inhale it, you know, have you ever overcooked popcorn in the microwave and then going to open it like, oh shit, and then, and then you just get a wave of smoke that just smells like burnt popcorn in your face? It's not fun, okay? So imagine that as a Devil Fruit ability, okay? If Smoker was really sadistic, he could have, like, grabbed Luffy, taken his one arm, turned it into smoke, and just, like, you know, just, like, forced the smoke down into Luffy's lungs, okay? That would have been really sadistic to do that, and there's really nothing that indicates Smoker could not do that. Not even to that degree, but just, like, surrounding your opponent's head in, like, a smoke cloud, and so it's just getting in your eyes, it's getting in your nose and your mouth, you can't breathe. You know, if that smoke is, like, you know, if that has, like, carbon monoxide or something in it, I mean, that'll just straight up kill you, you know what I mean? So you think that Smoker, you know, if he really wanted to, he might be able to deal out some, like, chemical warfare, not on, like, the degree of, like, Caesar with, like, the actual gas fruit that has the ability to, like, turn himself into, like, kind of any gas he wanted to. Like, if Caesar wanted to, he could literally turn into, like, carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide as just, like, an attack, you know what I mean? So Smoker's not on that quite level, but, like, damn, it's pretty powerful, right? There was a weakness that was revealed during when he fought against Virgo. However, it's a weakness that he kind of knew about and he utilized so that Law could sort of show up as well. It was sort of a distraction. So when he is fighting against somebody that can use Haki, it doesn't matter how much he spreads out his body with smoke, because if you know Haki, you can punch the smoke and it's still part of his body, so it'll hurt him, okay? So all he's doing when he's, like, spreading his body around like that is just making a bigger target for the enemy, okay? But he did utilize that. So, Smoker, was like a distraction for Virgo, and then Law showed up and everything like that. So there was a way to do that to his advantage. He's aware of this weakness, especially when facing against people that have hockey. But also, I would imagine this is a devil fruit that you could easily do the Aokiji trick. Do you know what the Aokiji trick is? Do you know what it is? Okay. During Marineford, when Whitebeard was showing up and fighting against Aokiji, and we were just starting to learn about hockey at that point, Whitebeard took his Bicento, his Naginata Murakumogiri, and he charged it up with hockey, and he ran it through Aokiji. And there was even a Marine off to the side with like, Admiral Aokiji got stabbed with hockey. Is he okay? And you see what happened. Aokiji, as a Logia, actually molded his body so that Murakumogiri passed through it. So it wasn't even coming in contact with him. So that's like another way that a Logia can fight against a hockey user. If they know the attack is coming, if they have really good observation, or in the case with like even not a Logia, but a special Paramecia like Katakuri that has future sight, you could see the attack coming and like, oh, that fist is made of hockey. If that punches me, it's going to hurt. But if you're a Logia, you can just mold your face to just bend it off to the side so that the punch doesn't even come in contact with your face. It just hits the air, So Smoker, though, being smoke, a gas, a very malleable kind of thing, you would imagine he would be able to use that technique very easily. It would be easier for him to learn that than another Logia that's more solid, like Aokiji having the ice abilities, or even Akainu turning into magma, which is more like viscous. This is something like similar to Kizaru. Kizaru's light, which isn't even gas at that point. It's just photons. You know what I mean? So he could probably use that the best, but like Smoker would be pretty easy to like bend his body in the way to dodge attacks. So Smoker, you need to work on observation hockey, bro. You need to work on like future sight, because if he learns that, he would basically be like Katakuri in dodging attacks. I mean, you can definitely make that work. Since his ability is also all around smoke, I was thinking about other anime characters that can utilize smoke, and probably the most famous one other than Smoker is Moral Macronassi from Hunter x Hunter. Now, Moral cannot become smoke, however, his Nen ability, Deep Purple, awesome name by the way, utilizes a giant pipe, and then he can spew smoke from him that's infused with Nen. He can trap people in the smoke, so kind of in a similar vein with taking smoke as a gas and turning it something like you can't physically touch or interact with. It's like actual like solid brick walls or like matter or something like that. Trap people in there. He can restrain people with it. He can make clones out of it and things like that. So I imagine there's some stuff there, not all of it, but there's some stuff that like Moral does with his Nen in Hunter x Hunter that Smoker could definitely utilize. We already know he can physically grab people with the smoke, so what's stopping Smoker from literally just creating like a box, like a jail, like Smokey Jail, which is the name of an Elvis Presley song, but also one of Moral's attacks. So he just makes kind of like similar to Moria's black box ability, where Moria takes his shadow, turns it into a box, traps Luffy in it, and beats the crap out of the box. Kind of the same thing with Smoker. I mean, he could do the same thing. He just takes his arm, turns it into smoke, traps Luffy in the box, and then proceeds to like smack it around the battlefield or something like that. Okay, I mean, he could do something that way. Could he make clones of himself? I think he should be able to at least make like a few of them. That's something that we don't really see Devil Fruit users like Logias utilizing all that much, though. Ace, the Admirals. Well, okay, Aramaki kind of did. Kizaru didn't. You think actually Kizaru, if any Devil Fruit user like a Logia could use their element to make a clone of themselves, you think Kizaru would be the best at that? Because Kizaru's ability is literally light. So Kizaru, in theory, could make a body of light from his own body and then bend the light so to make it sort of like a mirage or like a Fata Morgana or something similar to like Nami's ability. And so he makes the appearance of himself, okay? Then again, Kizaru's fruit is so ridiculously broken and powerful. He doesn't need to really even rely on tricks like that. Could he do something like that? Maybe, Also, even if Smoker could do that, he might be able to make another body that's like a similar in shape, but he might not be able to make the body look like himself, like actually add in like the color of his jacket and stuff like that. Maybe just make a form of himself that kind of resembles a human body. It could work as a distraction. Honestly, what I think Smoker's main like advantage in most fights is, especially against somebody that doesn't really have good observation, is just spew out a bunch of smoke. Just like start off every fight by just covering the entire battlefield in smoke. and then merging with that smoke and then fighting the enemy that way. Like I said, if they have decent observation, they'll be able to counter that, but still, you've cut off their sight. That's something that you can do to your advantage, all right? Probably another reason why he was able to rise to the ranks as well as he did, right? Absolutely. What would the awakening of the Moku-Moku no Mi be? Well, since it's a Logia, and we're going along with the general vibe that when you awaken a Logia, it turns the environment around you into something different as akin to your element, as is the case with Punk Hazard, as is the case with Raijin Island, probably a former user of the Goro Goro no Mi. In the case with Smoker, he would basically just turn the entire area into the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. I guess. I don't know. I mean, really, no, actually, no, wait. More of a closer reference, Centralia, Pennsylvania. His awakening is Centralia, Pennsylvania. Now I have to explain what that is. Centralia is a town at the center of Pennsylvania. It's like about 3 hours from where I live. And it's a town that I think there's only like 6 or 7 people that live there. It was a coal mining town back in the day, I think the 60s. There was a mine fire. Okay, and the mine was underground, obviously, so the fire happened underground. The fire began to spread. They couldn't extinguish it. The fire eventually reached the landfill, and it's still burning to this day. So if you go to this town, you will see smoke like rising out of the earth. Like it's still happening. The fire is still smoldering to this day. It's essentially a ghost town. There's only like a few people that have lived there that chosen like, I'm not leaving my property. I'm living in the Silent Hill era place until I die. And fun fact, it actually is the basis for Silent Hill. So any Silent Hill fans out there, yeah, it's based on Centralia, Pennsylvania. So yeah, I've never been there myself, but I've always wanted to make the trip just to kind of see it, just for like the novelty of it all. But yeah, that's basically Smoker's awakening ability is he summons Centralia, Pennsylvania. But can you imagine if he did awaken, the entire island would just be covered in constant smoke, like this miasma that you just couldn't break through, you know what I mean? And then that's just Smoker's awakening. It would be pretty powerful, right? So, considering that Smoker is literally the only Marine, aside from the current Admirals, that has a Logia, I think it's pretty damn clear that by the end of the story, Smoker's going to be an Admiral, okay? I think he's going to be an Admiral, actually, even before Kobe is, because he is older than Kobe. Smoker's 36 right now. Kobe's only, like, 18. So, by the end of the actual manga, you know, like, by the end of everything, it's taken care of, like, Luffy finds the One Piece, all that jazz, Final War, whatever you want to say. Smoker might actually be promoted to Admiral class. I mean, he's already a Vice Admiral. He's right below it. He has the Logia. You know, every Admiral has a color and an ability that kind of corresponds to that. Kizaru is, his color is yellow, and he turns into Light, which Light doesn't really have a color, or rather, I guess it could have any color, but, you know, he chooses to have the color of yellow. Aramaki is Green Bull, you know, the forest, trees, leaves, chlorophyll. So, in the case with Smoker, already called the White Chaser, he's going to be, you know, I've actually seen a few different theories on what his epithet would be. I think White Snake would sound the coolest, okay? Admiral White Snake, Shiro Hebi. That would be pretty cool. Wolf would also make sense because he's like a hunter. He's a chaser. So maybe Wolf would work as well there. But I'm going to go with Snake. Also, it's the name of a band. So that kind of adds into there. I know we're not in JoJo's or anything like that, but let's just go with it. That's a rule in anime. Every character that manipulates smoke has to name their abilities after songs or bands or albums. You know, Moral Macarnassi has, you know, Deep Purple and Smoky Jail, and Smoker from One Piece is, you know, Admiral White Snake. You know, like that it works. It works, okay? Yeah. It's the kind of music your dad listened to. Yeah, there you go. But I think White Snake would work, also because he can, like, send out his arms like a snake. You could see him turning his arms into, like, vipers or, like, anacondas or king cobras or something like that. Ooh, that would be cool. Okay, do you want to see Smoker fight Luffy one more time? Like, do you want to see that? Like, I think Luffy's gonna fight maybe Akainu, maybe with Sabo. Like, that would be really cool to see. Luffy maybe fighting against Aramaki would be cool. You know, the Admiral level. And I know Smoker's not on the Admiral level yet, but maybe seeing Smoker and Luffy just duke it out one more time, just to see how much stronger Smoker has been since the first fight they had, and since, like, Smoker completely dominated Luffy in that fight, seeing them fight again with maybe Luffy dominating the fight, maybe to see how Smoker's like, all right, Straw Hat, you've grown strong, you know, something like that. We could see Smoker's new ability, and he's just like, you know, giant white viper snake or whatever, and it attacks Luffy, and Luffy uses Gear 5th. That would be cool, right? That would be neat. Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, I think that's the video. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. I still don't know what Moki-Moki means, but, hey, you know, we'll find out for that later, I suppose. Anyway, now we're going to start with a new installment of Animal Facts. That's right, the octopuses were fun, but now it's time to move on to the letter P. And for the letter P, I've considered a lot. Penguins were probably the favorite for a while because I really love penguins. But, you know, I was looking at the banner of my channel where I add a new animal to Animal Facts every single time. And I decided on something, and it's a little bit unorthodox, but I hope you'll indulge me with this. Cue the intro. That's right. This installment of Animal Facts, we're talking about this little guy, PORYGON! Yeah! And PORYGON is an animal. Well, he's a Pokemon, but Pokemon literally is pocket monsters. And, you know, that's kind of mean to call them monsters. You know, they're animals, right? Absolutely. Although, PORYGON is a little unique because he's not actually a real, like, normal Pokemon anyway. He's a digital Pokemon. Okay, it's kind of like if you were to program a giraffe into a game. Would you therefore call the code that makes up that giraffe an animal? Because it's computer code. But what happens if you then could take the code of that giraffe and then bring it into our world somehow? Would it then be considered an animal, or would it be considered its own separate thing? I don't know. Anyway, that's where Porygon basically ends up, okay? So Porygon is the virtual Pokemon. This is more of Porygon 2 right here, but close enough. Anyway, Porygon's number is 137. He's a Gen 1 Pokemon, which makes him automatically one of the best ones, you know, easily. And he's essentially also the first Digimon as well. I did a little bit of research into this. So Porygon is a digital Pokemon. That's literally his... I have his Pokédex entries here. We're going to be reading through these as we go. But his... Pokédex entries in Gen 1, so red and blue version, is a Pokemon that consists entirely of programming code, capable of moving freely in cyberspace, okay? So do not think of Porygon as a robot. Do not think of him as a cyborg. No, he is literally a Pokemon that was created out of code, out of binary, okay? And then using the technology of the Pokemon world, like with transferring the Pokeballs through cyberspace, you can bring Porygon into our world. So instead of capturing, like, a Pikachu and then transferring the Pikachu into cyberspace, scientists in the Pokemon world were just like, let's make a Pokemon in cyberspace and then just bring it into our world. I wonder if that would work. And it did. And you get Porygon. Now, Porygon is not the only man-made Pokemon to exist. There's implications that, like, well, Mewtwo was cloned from Mew, so you could say Mewtwo is man-made. I think also there's theories and stuff. I don't know if this was outright stated that, like, Voltorb and Electrode, their line is also, like, man-made Pokemon. Grimer and Muck are made from, like, literal human pollution. You know, that's how they were created. Magnemite also might have been a human creation. So, you know, man-made Pokemon exist, but not in the same way Porygon is man-made, okay? But anyway, going back to the Digimon thing, all right? I wanted to do some research into this because I wanted to see if Porygon was the first digital monster before Digimon became, you know, a popular phenomenon in its own right, okay? So Digimon was originally based on digital monsters. Digital monsters is like, it was like a Tamagotchi-based thing, where it was like a keychain thing where you would have like a little monster in the keychain and you would like feed it and stuff like that. So the digital monster line came out in 1997, which was after the first Pokemon game in 96. However, digital monsters were based on the Tamagotchis. Tamagotchis came first, okay? And the Tamagotchis were, I guess, more centered for, like, girls, and so that's why digital monsters came to be a thing, because they, you know, targeted more for, like, the boy demographic audience, and so that eventually became Digimon, all right, digital monsters, okay? So Tamagotchis, though, is a handheld digital pet created in Japan. It was released in November of 96. Pokemon Red and Blue, or rather Pokemon Red and Green in Japan, was released in February of 96. So you could argue the development of these things was most likely happening at the same time. The development of Pokemon and the development of Tamagotchi, which would eventually become digital monsters, which would eventually become Digimon. This was all probably happening at the same time in the mid-90s, you know, 94, 95, and then released in 96. But just going by release schedules alone, Porygon was the first Digimon. Sorry, he wins. Okay. Well, there's a lot of other stuff to discuss with Porygon. Some of it controversial, some of it just interesting. So I hope you'll come on this journey with me. All the other animal facts after this, will be normal animals, but Porygon is my favorite Pokemon. Did I mention that? I have a little shrine of him built back here, okay? But yeah, so if you have any Porygon merch, send it to me. I'm the guy that would like to have that, okay? Anyway, that's Porygon facts, and once again, we'll have my charity stream, St. Jude Children's Hospital, this Saturday, December 17th, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be there. We're going to have a blast. We're going to have a lot of YouTubers sent me in videos for this. It's going to be a great time. I'm going to make a separate video for this to announce it anyway, so look forward to that as well. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a fun day. Tekking, signing out.